Welcome to Section 2.1, Part 2. This is the 12th session of the CISSP exam prep series. This part picks up the personnel lifecycle where the last one left off. In this session, we'll follow people through the rest of their time with the organisation. We'll answer several questions. Why do privileges drift? And how do you catch it? What tricks expose insider fraud? How do you offboard someone cleanly? Why is termination timing so delicate? And how do you control the outsiders who are not on your payroll? Why does this matter beyond the exam? Because the risk from a trusted insider grows quietly over years. Picture a database administrator at a logistics firm who has quietly collected permissions across a decade. Nobody planned it, but now one account can touch everything. The discipline in this session is how you keep that from happening and how you close accounts and contracts without leaving open doors behind you. Why do privileges drift over time? Because work tasks change faster than access reviews do. Managers should regularly audit each person's duties, privileges, and responsibilities because permissions creep upward. Excess privilege is pure risk. It widens the blast radius of an honest mistake, hands a disgruntled worker more power to cause harm, and gives an attacker who hijacks the account more to exploit. Think of it like a keyring that keeps growing but never shrinks. Trimming access back to what the role needs is a simple, powerful risk reduction. How do mandatory vacations expose hidden fraud? By forcing a fresh pair of eyes onto someone's work. Common in the financial industry, a mandatory vacation sends a worker away without remote access for a week or two while a different person, an auditor, covers their duties. That coverage makes it far easier to spot abuse, fraud, or negligence hiding in the daily routine. Picture a payments clerk whose small, repeated diversions only surface once a colleague works the same desk. Passwords are never shared. Instead, the account is reset for the auditor, then reset again when the worker returns. What makes collusion harder to pull off? Overlapping controls that raise the odds of getting caught. When several people conspire on a crime, that is collusion. Separation of duties, restricted responsibilities, mandatory vacations, job rotation, and cross-training all make a would-be partner think twice because someone is more likely to notice or report. Strict monitoring of powerful accounts, like administrator or root, adds another layer. Imagine two co-workers who would need a third and a fourth to look the other way. The more eyes involved, the less appealing the scheme. Why revaluate long-serving employees? Because trustworthiness at hiring is not a permanent stamp. In sensitive fields like healthcare, finance, government, and defence, periodic reevaluation keeps that trust current. It might repeat the full original background investigation, or it might run a few targeted checks to confirm nothing has changed. Meanwhile, user and entity behavior analytics watches how people, and even devices and systems, actually behave. Patterns that hint at reconnaissance, intrusion, or misuse feed straight back into stronger policies and training. How do you offboard someone cleanly? By reversing onboarding through the identity system. Offboarding removes a departing person's identity from the identity and access management system. It also applies when someone transfers between departments or locations, which some organizations treat as a termination and rehire. A full offboarding disables or deletes the account, revokes certificates, and cancels access codes. Picture archiving a project when it closes. It is common to deactivate rather than delete right away, keeping the identity for a few months of auditing before final removal, so security logs still point to a real account. Why not just transfer a problem employee? Because you are only moving the problem, not solving it. Shuffling a poor performer into another department rarely helps. If someone is unacceptable in one team, it is unrealistic to assume they will thrive in another. When coaching and training do not fix it, the honest choice is termination, not relocation. Think of it like passing a leaking bucket down the line. Eventually it still spills, just on someone else's floor. Why is termination timing so delicate? Because a warned employee can do real damage before they walk out. A strong bond between security and human resources keeps a termination controlled. Hold the meeting with a witness, remind the person of their obligations, and collect all badges, devices, keys, and tokens. Handle it privately and with respect, But do not skip precautions. Here is the critical rule. Disable the account at the same time as, or just before, the person is told, never before in a way that tips them off. Deactivating access early, requesting a device back, or reassigning their desk can all leak the news. How should the actual exit be handled with planning that fits the situation? If a non-voluntary termination risks confrontation, make it abrupt, with security guards present, and settle equipment and paperwork later through an attorney. For professional or voluntary departures, a human resources exit interview captures why the person is leaving and how to improve conditions for those who stay. Either way, escort the former employee off the premises and do not let them wander back to their work area without an escort. How do you control outsiders who are not on your payroll? With clear agreements and controls for vendors, consultants, and contractors. These define performance, expectations, pay, and consequences for external parties. When several organizations share a project, multi-party risk appears because their goals, timelines, and priorities differ. Often a governing body must enforce consistent security across everyone involved. Outsiders also raise the risk of trade secret theft, since they lack the loyalty of long-term staff. Picture a design firm bringing in a short-term contractor who has no stake in the company's future. Why put a service-level agreement in place? Because it turns expectations into enforceable commitments. A service-level agreement holds a provider to an agreed standard of service and is essential for any third party, including cloud providers. It often includes financial remedies when the provider falls short. For example, if a critical link stays down past an agreed window, the provider might waive that month's fee. Outsourcing can transfer some risk, but it also expands your attack surface, so make sure the agreement supports your security policy rather than fighting it. A vendor management system can centralize contracts, keep communications encrypted, and log vendor activity for organizations juggling many suppliers. So let's bring it together. Privileges drift, so audit them and trim back to what the role needs. Mandatory vacations, separation of duties, job rotation, and monitoring expose fraud and deter collusion. Offboard by removing identity cleanly, and never transfer a problem you should terminate. Time terminations carefully. Disabling access right as the person is told. And govern vendors, consultants, and contractors with strong agreements, service-level agreements, and a vendor management system. The MCQs covering all the topics and concepts from this session are available on rucloud.com. Practice the chapter-specific MCQs before moving on to the next session. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or feedback, post a comment below or email us. I will see you in the next session.